recently made a video on Epson's cold press bright paper, and I had a whole bunch of questions about whether you could make an art print with it, like for a coloring book page, or just to do an embellished art print, and then you could watercolor on this paper afterward. So in this video, we're gonna test it out. I've got an Artistro watercolor set here that I have never used. And just a heads up, I am not an expert at watercolor. I actually haven't watercolored since, I don't know, elementary school. So we're gonna try some things out here. I made the prints in this test with Epson Ultrachrome Pro 10 ink in my Epson P900 printer. Now before I put the color on there, what I wanna try to do is just see if this ink is waterproof. So I'm just putting some water on here and mixing it around. You can see some of this, when I rub it really hard, is blending around. So I would say this is not the most waterproof ink, but I did only wait an hour after printing this. So maybe if you wait longer, it would work better. Now it's been 3 hours and I can still remove. I have to scrub a lot with this. And I don't know if most people, when they're watercoloring, are going to be scrubbing it quite as hard as I am, but you can see some of it did come off. So now I have some of the watercolor. Put it on here. Like I said, I am not an expert with watercolor, but I would say just from first glance here, you can watercolor on this paper. And if you notice the way I'm brushing it on, it's not smearing the ink. When I really rubbed it hard, it did, but gentle amounts of watercoloring should be fine. Now I printed a little bit of color on there because I thought it would be a good idea to test the color as well, to see if it will be water resistant. Now you see, when I'm rubbing on this with the brush, this was just a wet brush. It is fairly water resistant, but I bet you if I rub on it with this, it's going to take some of it up off of there and move it around. You do it in both sides, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you are going to use this paper and think that this is going to be completely water resistant, you should go into it knowing that it's not. See what happens if I put a large area of water on here. My thoughts on this experiment are mixed. On the one hand, you can watercolor on this paper, but on the other, the inks are not completely waterproof. They are somewhat water resistant, so if you are lightly brushing on the paint, it'll be fine. But if you are scrubbing around on there really hard or applying lots of water, it's not going to be good. The other thing I want to show you is this. The paper got fairly rippled up. You can definitely see where I applied water. So this is how it dried. Not very good. In hindsight, if I would have taped down the edges prior to painting, it would have dried a lot flatter. So if you are going to use this paper to watercolor on, I would tape all the edges with some removable painter's tape. The other thing I wanted to show you was a cool effect. I painted this with some metallic watercolors, and now once it's dry, it has a glittery sheen to the print. This would be a cool way to embellish your art prints was something that you could not do with a printer. So this paper is sort of a solution if you are wanting to make watercolor embellished prints, but if you are wanting to sell these prints as watercolor coloring book pages, I would suggest not to go with this paper because the ink is semi-permanent. It's semi-water resistant, but not 100% water resistant. Next, if you'd like to know the best printer available on the market currently for making fine art prints, check out this video. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.